Hello everyone, and welcome to day 28 of Wild Writing in the time of Corona. So on the 7th day we do something different, and I hope you'll enjoy today's activity. It's got me really excited, and I think you'll enjoy it too. So we've done, on the previous 7th days, we've done given words, we've done pictures to inspire. We've also done music to inspire, and today we're going to use people to inspire. So the first thing I would like you to do is to, and you may need to do a pause after I've given you these instructions, is to make a list of any 6 people who you have never met but you would like to meet, and you know why you'd like to meet them. So these can be people who are living or people who are long dead. Really doesn't matter. So that's the first task, and I'm going to ask you to make that list now. Okay, so you have a list of 6 people who you would like to meet, and you know why you'd like to meet them. So today's poem is going to be a record of your meeting with them. Obviously this is probably entirely in the realms of fantasy, but that's what the poem is about, a record of your meeting. You can decide whether you meet one of them, 2, all of them. You also need to decide how you're going to meet them. There needs to be an occasion for meeting them. It could be a drink, it could be for breakfast, it could be for a walk, it could be for supper. Whatever reason, you're going to imagine a context in which you will meet them. Obviously, if they're long dead, they'll need to be back with you, and you can place it in their past or your present. It doesn't matter. So the next thing you need to decide is, with 2 decisions, are you meeting one, or are you meeting several, or all of them, and what's going to be the context. So I'm going to do another little pause now while you decide on that. Okay, so you have decided where you're going to meet them and whether it is an individual or whether it's many. And so as we go into the writing of the poem, the next thing you really need to decide is whether you're going to write it from your point of view or their point of view, or a different point of, or an outsider's point of view of the whole thing. You also need to decide whether you're going to do it as it's happening, before it has happened, or after it has happened. So lots of decision making coming into today's activity. So for example, you might decide to meet 2 people to have a record of the conversation as it's actually happening, and to do it from your point of view. So those might be your decisions. One other thing to put into this before I say start is I would like at some point in the poem there to be an image to describe the person or people. So a simile or a metaphor, or just one little image that's dropped in to say something about them, to give the reader a sense of their of the individual you've chosen being their personality. Okay, so that was rather a long preamble. I'm very excited to see the results, and I think this is an opportunity to really let your imaginations go. And can I just say, as an addition, it might be, if you don't know this person terribly well, i.e. you haven't read about them or seen about them or heard about them before, it might be a good idea to do some research which you could then use. Okay, right, paper, pen, this bit never changes, and start. Welcome back, and well done. I'm wondering who you've chosen and why you've chosen them. And then I'm wondering how you've made the poem for today, how you've crafted it together. And I'm wondering how long it took you, and I'm also wondering if you enjoyed it. So I'll start by sharing. I'm not sure how happy I am with this poem, but I'll tell you what I've done. So my list of people, my 6 list of people, and I would very much like to see your 6 lists of people, your list of 6 people, if you choose to share. My grandfather, who I never met, on my father's side. Joni Mitchell, I just adore her songs and her lyrics. Victor Hugo, whose book Les Miserables I was very pleased to read a couple of years ago. Oscar Wilde, who has such a reputation, I think he'd be a wonderful person to meet. Orson Welles, whose films I like very much, and Marilyn Monroe. So you can see mine are all quite iconic in their own way, apart from my grandfather. It took me a while to decide, but I decided in the end that I was going to meet Victor Hugo, and I decided that we would go for a walk together, and I decided I would write it from my point of view, and it would be in the past tense. So this is my poem, which I've called Meeting Victor Hugo. We walked along the riverbank, Victor Hugo and I. He was tall, almost barrel-chested, a big, strong man, heavy-jowled, long, dank hair, who I felt would protect me, though there was never a need. He talked of how, every day, come whatever may, he'd write, making himself sit for hours, 100 lines of poetry, 20 pages of prose. It was his work, he said, as he steered us clear of the river. It was near midday, and he began to tire of talking. He had the look of a man obsessed. His eyes drilled into the path, and we walked in silence. He stopped and looked across the Senna. We should not have come here, he said. Quickly, we turned back into the city, the low buildings of Brussels. He took me to a cafe behind the oldest church, cradled his glass, and still his eyes were down. There was a sense of darkness in his breathing, or smouldering within, that would soon rage into a fire. And then he told me. It had been a sunny day in Villequier, the boats out on the Seine. Leah Pauline, his oldest, and her husband, like any couple might, took out a rowboat. He breathed through his nose, deeply, several times. He told me of the accident, how Charles had tried to save her. Beneath her billowing skirts and belly, she and their unborn child were lost. He looked beyond me, his eyes filled, his mouth set. Time went on, and still we sat. The afternoon passed by. Slowly, his whole frame seemed to sigh and soften. I couldn't speak, but he said, "Come, I'll show you where I write each day." As we left the shadowy little cafe, the patron nodded at Victor. We walked slowly along the Rue Mersenne. He gently took my arm. "It is by suffering," he said to me, "that human beings become angels." He laughed and joked, whether he would ever go through enough to truly earn his wings. So that's rather a long poem, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I got the image in, and I hope that you got a little picture of what it might be like. And I just cannot wait to read your poems. If you wish to send me a recording, that's fine as well. You can do that at contrarycast@gmail.com. please share and like the page, and I hope you have enjoyed your little moment of wildness and creativity in the day. So you take care, and I'll be back tomorrow for day 29.